scales of war. Prologue. Chapter 1. The sun's rays hit the top of the trees as it slowly started to eat away at the shadows of the night. I stood upon the veranda, listening for any intruder foolish enough to enter my lands. Not a single creature bigger than an insect dared to venture into the plain of grass surrounding the house. 5 years ago, I had released the dampener on my powers, so all creatures now knew what walked among them, thanks to the immense power that lurked beneath my skin. Mammals, birds, and reptiles had an innate skill to sense danger, and I radiated it. They all stayed in the forest around us, where they could feel safe, thanks to the many hiding places the forest floor provided them. In truth, it would make little difference if I ever chose to end their existence. I could hear every vole darting beneath the brush, scrambling for cover as the sun threatened to make them easy prey. As for the birds, I could hear their chirps echoing between the branches and the soft rush of wings cutting through the leaves. I could even hear the lone fox padding through ferns, sniffing out its meal as sunlight spilled slowly through the canopy above. When I had ensured nothing had trespassed, I turned and walked into the house. In the shared living and dining space, I found my wife and our son Finn, just 5 years old. They were both covered in flour, giggling like children. Her crystal blue eyes met mine and softened.
"Any dangerous intruders?"
she asked with a warm smile and a glint in her eyes. "What are you making?" I asked, and couldn't hide my own smile as her usually dark brown hair had turned mostly white, clearly due to a mishap with my son and the flour bag.
"Cake!"
My son chirped and continued to mix the batter violently. My gaze shifted to the backyard. "Olivia?" I said in the form of a question, almost knowing the answer.
"Where do you think? How is it you can hear so much but not her?"
My wife chuckled and looked at Finn, who was clearly determined to beat the batter into submission. I wasn't listening after her. When did she go out?
"At first light. She has been living on that swing since last week."
My wife answered with a warm smile. Had I known, I would have built that thing years ago. I said, then turned to head out into the backyard. As I passed her, my wife reached out and gently took hold of my arm. She knew why mornings weighed heavily on me. She could read the shadows in my eyes, the ones that never truly left. She always saw it all, the ache, the regret, the fear. I was among the most powerful beings in existence, and yet I had failed the ones who meant the most.
"Live and let live,"
she whispered to me. My only reply was the hand I laid on hers, and she let me go. I gave her a short smile and continued on my path. Olivia was exactly where my wife had said she'd be. The same place she'd stayed ever since I built that cursed swing, morning after morning, without fail. The sun caught the lake behind her, casting a warm glow over the swing set and seemingly setting my daughter's hair aflame with golden fire. She noticed me standing in the doorway and lifted a hand to wave. I returned the gesture, but my focus was suddenly torn away by a sound I hadn't heard in ages. I stepped into the backyard, and the ground beneath me trembled, stirred by my rising fury. My wife dropped everything and ran to my side, finding me fixated on the sky above. She didn't ask, didn't speak, she only waited. I released a deep, guttural growl. An old plane is flying this way. If it does not change course, it will fly above us soon. From my recollection, it sounded like an old propeller plane, one I had not heard in over 200 years.
"It could be a mistake in directions,"
my wife said, trying to calm me. A few seconds later, the plane emerged from beyond the treetops. It had barely covered a few meters of open sky before a sleek 22nd century jet streaked overhead. As it passed, the jet fired a sharp red beam at the tail of the aging propeller plane, sending it into a violent spin before it crashed into the lake below. I turned toward the direction the jet had vanished and prepared to pursue it. My wife stepped swiftly in front of me, placing a firm hand on my chest to stop me.
Save him, then figure out what happened.
My eyes' ember glow reflected in the blue of hers, a show of my ire. I quickly turned to the lake, took a running jump, and dove headfirst into it. With a few powerful strokes, I reached the plane. The pilot was still conscious, struggling desperately to free himself from his seatbelt. He only realized I was there when I tore the door off the plane. I grabbed the seatbelt lock and crushed it easily, freeing the man. Without wasting any time, I seized his shirt, pulled him out of the wreckage, and dragged him to the surface, where my wife waited for us. Olivia had jumped off the swing and was now standing behind her mother closer to the house. I simply walked out of the lake with the man dangling like a shopping bag from my hand, water dripping off both of us. The second we got to the shore, I let go of his shirt, and he dropped like a sack of potatoes into the mud. I continued forward a few more steps, my black shirt soaked and clinging to my broad frame, and my boots squelching wet, then pivoted sharply. Even though we were nearly the same height, I seemed to tower above him.
Thank you,
the man said with heaving breaths. I did not move an inch. I only crossed my arms and looked at him. The man looked up and slowly got to his feet.
You saved my life,
he said, and held out his hand as a friendly gesture. That remains to be decided. I replied coldly and closed the distance between us. You set 1 foot, 1 toe out of line. You as much as forget to say please or thank you. I won't take my time to explain this again. I'll rip your head off and bury you where no one will find you. The man paled at my threat and stared at me speechless.
Come with me. I'll find you some dry clothes.
My wife called behind me. I took a step to the side and allowed him to pass me. Clearly wary of me, he kept his eyes on me as he followed my wife back into the house. Olivia stayed behind, silently watching them both disappear. Our eyes met for a moment, and I gave her a quick wink. She lit up instantly, her perfect smile spreading across her face. Inside, the warmth of the house settled quickly around the stranger. My wife wasted no time. Soon he was dressed in dry clothes, and the breakfast table was ready. The stranger's name, my wife had learned, was Nilo. I watched him like a hawk through the entire meal, ready to strike him down at any wrong move. Even drowning in my oversized clothes, there was no hiding the strength in his frame. Nilo was built like a man who'd fought more than a few times. The scars on his hand suggested experience, most likely from training with knives.
So, Nilo, that plane that shot you down, who was that?
My wife asked, ever the curious one. Slowly placing down cutlery on the table and chewing, he cleared his mouth.
It was a jet from the new Russia-Asia alliance. I am a spy from the American Union, and I tried to get to the evac point in the one plane they couldn't turn off remotely. I have information the other side is in desperate need of, or else,
Nilo said, sounding eager to explain every little detail. I narrowed my eyes on him, trying to assess what kind of spy would be so eager to speak with strangers, even if I had just threatened his life.
Mom, we're done eating.
Olivia interrupted, speaking for both her brother and herself. My wife looked at them and determined it was probably best they didn't hear the rest of the conversation. There was no reason for them to know of the worlds past the forest. It meant nothing to them. My wife told them they were free to go. Olivia gave a quick nod. Their chairs scraped back from the table and they both bolted outside, laughter echoing behind them as they ran, forgetting all about their plates still sitting on the table.
What is happening out there?
My wife asked, once she heard the door shut and the laughter muffled.
you don't know.
Nilo asked with surprise.
There is a war. The war to end all wars, they say. And if I don't get to my people, it will be over soon.
I'd heard the distant thunder of massive war machines beyond my land, but hadn't bothered to act on it. As long as they kept to their own realm, I would leave them be.
Tell me how.
With Nilo so ready to speak, my wife would take whatever he handed over. And if I knew her at all, she'd find a way to trick him out of the rest.
They are developing a weapon to wipe us all out. A weapon that will make the Tsar Bomba look like a hand grenade.
The Tsar Bomba had been a massive nuclear bomb, the biggest ever produced. Though far too large to be practical as an actual weapon, it served its purpose, a show of power from the Soviet Union during the Cold War.
Will they deploy this weapon?
She asked, and I could hear the worry in her voice. It was wasted, as I would allow nothing to bring harm to her or my children.
That is their goal. So, I need your help to get me home.
No. I cut off the conversation with finality. The word lingered in the quiet between the three of us, unmoving as the moment dragged out. I saw the frustration in Nilo build as he stared at me in silence.
You don't care about all the lives?
He finally burst out. No, I do not. If your kin wants to eradicate themselves, let them. I cut him off again. At this, Nilo clenched his teeth, rage flickering in his eyes. He was no doubt biting back words that might have pushed me to smite him. My wife gently placed a calming hand on my arm, making me glance at her. She was still looking at him.
You can stay here for as long as you need, Nilo. We will provide food and shelter. No one will come to hurt you here.
My wife assured him and began clearing the table. Nilo shot me a skeptical glance, uncertain how I'd take her promise or if I would obey it. For now, I said, rising from my seat and headed for the front door. Let him sit with the weight of those two words. As the door shut behind me, I heard him move to help my wife with the dishes. At least he had some manners.
How can he be so indifferent to this danger?
Nilo asked, unaware of my keen hearing.
He would let millions die without even trying to save them.
The cleaning of the plates stopped abruptly.
He has lived longer, and he has lost more than you could ever imagine. He has cut himself off from the outside world, not for indifference to your plight or problems, but to protect himself from the pain humans cause, but most of all, to save you from his retaliation. Do not mistake my hospitality for anything else than that. I stand behind my husband's words. My husband and I speak with one voice. We have faith in each other, and we respect each other's choices. I will not undermine his refusal to fight your war, and he will not undermine my decision in allowing you to stay.
My wife's words left no room for argument. Nilo must have given a silent nod, as seconds later, the sound of dishes being cleaned filled the room once more.